Ram, how is climate change affecting Nepal?
It's a big issue, and we can see a lot of impacts from climate change. Starting from this, Nepal is Himalayan country, and there are lots of Himalayas right now that we see that the Himalayas is melting, the snow is melting, and starting from Himalaya to down to Tarai, and we have lots of the people, they do cultivate agriculture, they do keep livestock, and whole set of they starting from the Himalaya. The most the biggest problem is that there is a fear of Gulf, that's the glacier lake outburst flood, and that is one of the biggest problems, and that fears a lot. And if you go in the mountain area, this agriculture is being impacted. Even that we have seen that public health is also being impacted by climate change. That's why there are lots of changes, especially in the water sector, agriculture sector, and even in the public health sector. That's why these people are being impacted by climate change from the various sectors.
And so are glacial lake outburst events already becoming more frequent in Nepal, or is it just a fear for the future?
This is the record shows that the possibility of having Gulf is increasing day by day, because due to increase in temperature in Himalaya, there is a possibility of having that kind of Gulf. And we had also couple of floods Gulf before also, but there is the prediction that that is going to be increased in future.
What are the government's priorities for tackling climate change?
Government has initiated a lot of this initiative. Actually, there are so many initiatives that government has initiated, and that one thing is the institution, how to create institutions so that climate change can be addressed properly. Other thing is that this having kind of program, that what are the different programs that that we can actually initiate so that we can offset the climate change impact. And Nepal developed NAPA, this National Adaptation Program of Actions, and it has identified 9 different sectors, and they have proposed different project within NAPA, and those are also being implemented. And at the same time there are other initiatives also, like pilot program on climate resilience, and there is also LDCF funding, and there is also ecosystem based adaptation funding from different organizations. That's why government has been coordinating all those programs and trying to demonstrate a kind of model so that that can be replicated in other part of the country. That's why government has response through building institution, developing programs and project at the local level. And I should also mention that the Nepal is ahead in developing what we call is LAPA. We have NAPA at national level, but we have also LAPA, is local adaptation plan of actions. So at the community level, at the local level, bringing all the stakeholders at one place so that the climate change can be actually integrated into the development process. That is how the government has responded on climate change issues.
Ram, take me to a village in the high Himalaya and make it a village that is creating its own local adaptation plan of action. Describe to me what their concerns are, what kind of concrete plans they are making for the future to cope with climate change.
Actually, climate change is sometimes people see that climate change is also a sector, and they only talk about climate change. When you go X village, like in one village in mountain areas, and the people are suffering Yeah, certainly from climate change, but there are so many other issues like people, they do not have health services, they do not have education, they are far from the road, you know, they, I mean, so many issues, development issues, and climate change is one of them. And the manifestation of the climate change, if you see from scientific point of view, that you can see very clearly, but at the community level, people, they know that that is being that climate change has really impacted, but you know, there are so many other important priorities. That's why people, they think that is important, but you know, there are also other important, equally important issues. And in village, especially they have community level plan, and where they integrate all kind of activities in that community plan, where the local government is also there, local civil society is also there, these farmers groups are also there, and they make a plan which is basically the plan which is also integrates the climate change issues, how to address the climate change when there is late rainfall, then how to address that, if there is high flood, and how to do that. In village, people, they have also done local level to disaster preparedness plan. I mean, that kind of things, you know, this whole kind of issues, they sit together, they identify and they prioritize, and they make a plan, and they implement that. This is how they do in villages.
Can you give me an example from the farming sector? How might they change their practices in the light of climate change impacts?
Yeah, there has been several changes that we have noticed, and I have also I was also involved in a couple of studies before, and I'm also doing kind of other studies. But what I see is that people, they are responding to climate change through various means. Sometimes that what we see, that if they do not get sufficient rain to cultivate paddy, they have changed to vegetable farm, and I have seen in a couple of places they have changed the whole cropping patterns, and they, instead of planting rice, they started cultivating bananas. You know, that is one thing. And other thing is, sometimes people, they select the varieties which needs less water, or that can be grown even in the drought period. You know, that is something that we have very specific examples, but there can be others various kind of examples that how people are responding to climate change.
Tell me about one of the most exciting initiatives you've seen in Nepal to tackle climate change.
There are many issues, but if you ask me one thing, that especially integrating energy issue in agriculture sector, although it's renewable energy is not, sometimes it's not that easy to get. Accessibility is problems, people, they do not have sufficient resources to invest on that. But that is one area that I see people are moving, and slightly this energy access is also, especially the renewable energy access is also being increased. Government has also in fact provided some sort of subsidies on that. Traditionally, that's in the past, only it was for urban area, but the government has provided the similar kind of subsidy to the in the rural areas also. Means that there is a possibility of offsetting energy at the community level or at the village level also. But there are also that the low carbon economic strategy, low carbon economic development strategy is being developed by the government, and there will be, we are working on that. There will be a lot of options, and there is also opportunity to take those options so that we can address the climate change impacts at country level.
Given that Nepal is a very low emitting country, why do you think the government is interested in low carbon development, and how will it sell that idea to other stakeholders?
I think that there is a strong reason for that. Although that we are not emitting a lot of carbon, but certainly we are emitting at least some carbon, and this is our responsibility. Maybe that our we are emitting less, but we should also offset in the proportion that whatever we are emitting. That is one reason. Another reason is I think that we should also show the other countries, that the big countries who are emitting more, look that even though we are emitting less, maybe that we are trying hard to make this our economy the climate resilient, or we want to create a kind of carbon neutral economy. And I think in future, people they believe or not, but one day the climate resilient technology will be at the stage where we can use that without hampering our development process. That is what I believe. That's why don't we go in that kind of no regret strategy? Why don't we choose that kind of option which will make our globe sustainable, and we can also care our environment and ecosystems. That is what I personally believe, and this is something that the government is also interested on those things. That's why we are developing this low carbon economic strategy.
Can you give me some examples of promising energy technologies that are now being rolled out in the agriculture sector?
What I see, there are a couple of areas where we can use energy in agriculture sector, like Nepal, that sometimes the energy, this irrigation is not that very much developed, and sometimes we need to pump water from river or from underground, and so far we are using diesel plant, and that diesel plant is also very expensive in Nepal. Then why don't we just move the solar energy based in systems, pumping sets, so that we can just lift water and irrigate agriculture field. Maybe that it's if we want to do in the larger scale, maybe we need bigger pump set, but at least people, they have already started using in kitchen gardens and small lands where we can irrigate even wheat, even other maize, those kind of things. That is what I see. Other thing is in terms of post harvest technologies, it's very difficult. We have a big crisis of power crisis. We do not have, even our hydro is our biggest source, but still we do not have sufficient power. That's why the processing, storing is a big problem, and we can use energy, especially solar energy, to for storing fruits and vegetables and other things. And recently we are also we are doing this grain drying methods, and traditionally we have been using other things, other powers, energy things, but right now that we are using solar energy. That is how that we are moving in that direction. It's not in big scale, but we have started in some places. That's good initiative.
So I was going to ask you for an example of government-backed low carbon development initiative. Do you have a different example, or would you have actually used the same example?
So far government has not done this is the strategy being developed. That's why there is no, there might be some specific examples like using electric vehicle, that is there, but it's not, we do not have a strategy. That's why it's very difficult to claim that it's a government initiative, but government has actually supported this electric vehicle. Instead of using diesel, they provide some kind of subsidy to electric vehicles, so that so we can really offset the diesel. But it's not, it's only in Kathmandu area. The scale is not that big, but government has done that.
That's promising, though.
Yeah.
So that could be scaled out potentially.
Yeah.
And what is the role for private sector? How is business playing a role in climate compatible development in Nepal?
It's a very tricky questions. I was involved in one project where that we invited the private sector to play some sort of roles. And some of the business houses, they have shown interest, but they are not, I mean, they are not, I mean, they showed their interest, but it's still they are not actually involved in those kind of things. There is a positive response, but still that part is weak. Probably we need to aware them. Government should take them in confidence, and what will happen if they go for this climate compatible development, because they need kind of support, they need assurance, they need kind of in a way from support from the government. And the government that we are in transition stage, and hopefully we'll have, I mean, we have I mean, stable government now, and let's see that in future that we can also do something on that. I'm very much optimistic, because this is, I mean, struggle, this we have different kind of issues, and still we need to survive, and we need to care our earth, and we need to follow our ecosystems, because my background is also biodiversity, environment, and I think that's the beauty. And probably we have problems, we have lots of challenges, but we need to face that. Otherwise, what's the meaning of having, I mean, life? That's why I'm very much optimistic, and one day that we are going to win this battle.